It is I, Mr. Shit Talker himself, AG the Dad, and this is Sensible Chery with Shit Talking Sunday. Well, actually, it's Shit Talking with Sensible Chery. So let's make sure we get that right. We have her here today. We got some big news. We're going to endorse somebody for governor. That's right. Because if one of my hosts is with you, we all with you. The whole Shit Talking Sunday Nation, we're all with you. I'm not going to tell you who it is. I'm going to let Sensible Chery tell you. And we're going to talk about a little bit of instructional videos that they're giving teachers to help guide them into manipulating our children. But anyway, let's get to the host with the most, Sensible Chery. What's going on?
Hey, how you doing?
You know,
it's great to be here.
Yeah, Monday's always great. We about to find out what has happened over the week, over the weekend.
Well, I've done my due diligence. This has been like months in waiting before
I said, okay, here it is. It's about to be official. Hold on, let me give you the big screen.
So let me give you the background though. When it comes to voting, so we have our governor election coming up and in this November, and it has been crazy. Many of us have not been a fan of the direction our state has been taking for a long time. From our education, we're failing, the homelessness crisis, the drugs. There's been so many decisions, the blatant disregard for individual rights through the mandates that we've had, that many of us are frustrated, and it's time for a change. Now, there are people, we have three main candidates. There are a couple of others, but the three main are Tina Kotek, who is the Democratic representative, Christine Drazen, who's the Republican representative, and then Betsy Johnson, who is running unaffiliated or non-affiliated. And so in taking into consideration where we have been, and knowing that Tina Kotek is everyone's saying it's the 2.0 or Kate Brown to the extreme, that is not the route I am going. So for me, it had to do with one of the other two candidates. Now, anybody who is completely satisfied with the status quo of our state and they think that everything that's going on is exactly what they want, they're going to vote for Tina Kotek. And you know what? That's fine. That's your choice. We all have an individual right to vote. I am not here to tell anybody how they should vote. I'm just speaking on behalf on what went into my decision. And so taking that into consideration, I am a data junkie and went through voting records. And so it is very hard to compare voting records for all three, except since about 2019. Tita Kotek has been representative and in the House for decades. The same Christine Drazen, she's a little newer in regard to representative. So as far as the side-by-side voting, it's pretty much since 2019, which took us to like 1,486 voting records that I was kind of skimming through and figuring out what was important to me. And so on that, there were actually like 948 times that Betsy Johnson and Christine Drazen voted together. Betsy Johnson, she had formerly been a Democrat, but I don't know how many people know this. Prior to that, she was a Republican. And so she has the stance of not being Miss Congeniality and seeing kind of the extremes of both sides and not being satisfied. Christine Drazen, she is our core Republican. She's got a stance on abortion. She's definitely someone who is trying to look out for the people and has that conservative Republican trait. Myself, I am a registered Republican. I have been fed up with the extremes. And so I finally went through all of this stuff for me, and I decided that Betsy Johnson is the choice that sits well with me. Now, in saying that, there are people that will vote for their party. If you are a party voter, you're going to vote for your party. There's nothing that's going to change your mind. That's fine. If you are a one topic, like is your ride or die, you're the hill you're going to die on, like abortion, then you're going to vote for who you're going to vote for based on their stance. There are people, and I did a write-up on this, there are people that say that there's this strategy that, if you're voting for Johnson, you're taking votes away from Kotek, or you're going to ensure the Democrats are going to win, or you're going to ensure some kind of toss-up. If you're strategically voting because of, some chess move that you think is going to get a result that's better than where we are at, that's your choice. Me, I am going to vote for someone who I can agree with things that they have done. And it doesn't mean I agree with everything. Historically, Betsy Johnson is definitely a stronger Democrat, but she does fall on the conservative side. I'm a stronger Republican, but it's for somebody who can see, somebody who can actually take into consideration both sides of the table, and isn't steamrolling an agenda and indoctrination, and somebody who's willing to stand for what they believe in. That is where my support is coming from. I truly would be totally fine if Christine Drazen were to get into office. I think that she has a lot of potential, but what we can't forget is we currently have a House and a Senate that is a Democratic majority. There have been people that have said, hey, well, if she gets voted in and we do nothing for 2 years, that will be great. That is not great. We need change. And so the idea of bringing somebody in where just everything that has been in place is going to continue to stay in place because people are going to dig their heels in and nothing is going to get done, that is not progress to me. And so that also goes in line with my support of Betsy Johnson. And also in regards to when I was going through the votes, she was the one that showed up the most, not by much, because there were votes that they weren't there for. But I think when you look at it, it was, what was it? I think like 290 times Kotek wasn't available to vote, which why should she, considering that pretty much whatever she wanted seemed to go. And then it was like 152 for Drazen, where she was not available to vote, and 148 for Johnson. So there's one thing, she shows up. The other thing is, I know that there were times when Drazen had walked out, and there were reasons for that. Some I agree with him, in some instances I don't. But the other side is Johnson voted against her own party. And that's been seen in her records, that there were times when she took a stand against her own party where other people just walked out. So you have to do your due diligence. Anybody who is interested in the voting records that I had gone through, I have that information. Feel free to message this show or shoot me a message personally on Facebook, because I truly would encourage you to do your due diligence. You have to be able to go to sleep at night. And you know what? There are people from both sides that had been trying to get me to make a decision. And I will tell you, Betsy Johnson actually took the time to call me when she was going through endorsements. Some people would say, oh, well, just to get a vote. But I am just an Oregon citizen. She made a point to reach out and have a conversation with me. And that conversation, she was no nonsense. She admitted decisions that she had made, that she didn't, that it didn't go the way that she had planned. So someone who can take accountability, somebody who obviously has a strong voice to stand for what they believe in, and somebody who's actually willing to work with people from both sides. So that's where I'm at. Feel free to share your why against that. That was the one other thing, is that a lot of people that had support for Drazen, and I asked people, what's your why? And I'm not getting that. It's always, well, you don't want this person in office, or we need to get out of Democrats being in office. That's not a why that I need something a little bit more solid, something with a little. So that's where I'm at with that.
So it's official. We
It's official.
are endorsing Betsy Johnson for governor of the state of Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
So it's official. Betsy, you got our vote. If you want to, you can reach out to me, email me, and just say, hey, thank you. If you don't, hey, no big deal either way. I don't know much about you. You're not in my state. But if Sensible Chery is on your side, then I'm on your side, because I know she talks nothing but sensible shit talking Sundays.
So moving on to our next subject, which, mind you, does have something to do with one of the things for Oregon is the governor is the superintendent of schools, and they also direct, or actually they can appoint whoever the Oregon Department of Education person is, who is currently Colt Gill. And so we have a clip that I want to share right now that is happening in one of our local school districts. I'm in Jackson County. This is in our school district. I've checked with our school district. We don't have anything going around specifically like this. And so this is Phoenix Talent School District. And they have shared a video to their educators. And I do not believe it is unique to Phoenix Talent. This is definitely something that I think you'll see up north a little bit more. But I want to go ahead and roll this clip so that we can let you see what is being shown to our educators and kind of see what your take is on it, because I know I have some thoughts. Go ahead, AG.
All right, here we go.
Hey TMS, this is just a quick mini training on something called personal education plans for gender identity. And really these are plans that we put in place to support students around making sure that we are honoring and respecting their gender identity here at school. Before I talk about personal education plans for gender identity, I want to talk a little bit about gender identity and supporting trans and gender expansive students. So transgender students are a protected group, and school districts are required by law to provide appropriate support and planning. Name and gender changes are the student's right, not the right of the parents or guardians. So this means that students can make legal record changes around their name and gender without parent or guardian consent or permission. Students may make formal or informal requests for name and gender changes. A formal request change would change the information on their file, and informal requests do not create a record change. So informal requests really are in-house changes that we could make to honor a student's identity, but they wouldn't go into the student record or change a record in any way. So personal education plans for gender identity, they are really a document which helps create a shared understanding between students, staff, and when appropriate families around how a student's gender identity will be recognized and respected at school. So these plans include the name that a student will use, the pronouns they will use, and then really how they will be using school facilities and what supports that they need at school to feel safe and supported. So that can include which restrooms they might use, which changing facilities they might use, which sports teams they would like to be part of, and other information that really helps us honor and respect the student's authentic gender identity. This process includes meeting with the student, the personal education plan coordinator, and family when appropriate to discuss the student's identities, request for changes, and to make a plan for support. I put when appropriate in parentheses really just to acknowledge that we know that there is a range in support and involvement around families and students. So we want to be sure that we're really honoring and respecting the student's process and comfort level. Of course, we want to involve families whenever we can and whenever it's appropriate, but we really do want to make sure that it's a situation that is comfortable and safe for the student. So we want to follow their lead as much as possible. And lastly, the plan is communicated to staff by the personal education plan coordinator, which would mean here at Elemental Middle School. So the information that's shared with staff in the personal education plan is the student's name, so that's the name that they would be going by, and their enrolled or legal name if that's necessary as well. The student's pronouns and a plan for using pronouns at school with peers and communicating home. So again, we know that the range of support and involvement will differ between students, and so we just want to respect that and be thoughtful around that. So some students might use a certain set of pronouns at school, but maybe they're going to ask that we use a different set of pronouns if we're talking to their family. And then, of course, other information needed to support the student, so perhaps the name of an identified safe person or a designated safe space. And just a reminder that students' transgender status, legal name, and assigned sex are confidential. So we certainly want to share this information so that we can all work to support the student. And we want to be really thoughtful around this information and make sure that we're protecting our students' confidentiality. And lastly, if you have any questions, if you want to talk more about this, if you have a student in mind that you think could benefit from a personal education plan for gender identity, please feel free to reach out to me at any point. And I've also embedded in this link here in this presentation just some more resources that can be helpful. So there's some resources around making a more inclusive classroom and some resources around supporting LGBTQIA youth. So please feel free to look at those. And of course, if you have any questions or anything at all, always feel free to reach out to me. And thank you so much for watching this.
All right. Yeah.
Crazy. That's my first time actually listening to it. And it's getting crazy that they're forcing, gender identity, I guess, is it's a touchy subject, but the fact that they're making decisions without parents' consent, how does that work when you have to be 18 to join the military? You have to be 18 or 21 to smoke cigarettes. You have to be 21 to drink. You can at under 18 years of age, as young as 13 years old, be prosecuted to the full extent of the law as an adult for committing a crime as a juvenile. Where does this is crazy. I'm definitely for people being able to live their life how they choose. But I am definitely against being forced to have to agree with your lifestyle. I don't think that we should have, I don't think that it's cool that anyone is being bullied. But on the flip side, I don't think it's cool that I should have to try to trick my mind to call you something that you are not. I don't care. You were born a man, you cut it off, you are still a man. You still have all that. The only thing you didn't do is you surgically altered your body to appear like an opposite sex. Um, that's your choice. But that does not mean that I have to be forced, or I should be forced, or even my children should be forced to have to go out of their way to call you what you want to be called other than your name. Pronouns, I mean, that's still touchy too. If you look like a man, I'm sorry, I'm going to call you a man. You can correct me. And I would like to say that people should be compassionate to people's, how would you say it, feelings. So if you look like a man, but you identify as a woman, and I say, hey, what's up, dude? And you say, hey, man, I'm not a dude, I'm a woman. My bad. Um, Sorry, ma'am, and go about your business. But for me to have to go out of my way to be like, hey, what's up, dude? Oh, you're offensive, and I'm going to file charges, and you're just no. I'm gonna call it what my bad. It was a simple mistake, and that's how it is. Now, at schools, to be forced to have to put tax dollars into something that you chose to do and become, hey, man, great. In most cases, all these changes don't occur until after you're 18. In very rare situations do they even make any major changes under that age. So why are we being forced to have to deal with that? I'm not saying that it should be kept in the shadow. Do what you want. Maybe I understand bringing awareness. You know what? I'm rambling. Let me let Sensible Chery do her thing because I'm venting. I'm that actually that video
No,
actually.
you hit on a lot of good points. And here's the deal. I agree with you. I think that everybody has the right to do what they are comfortable with as long as they are not harming other individuals. And then there's a line there too, in regards to harm, whether you choose to stay in that environment or not. But the reality of it is age is huge. And I'm sorry, we have got to talk about this and establish whether there should be an age requirement for some of these things or not. And I absolutely 100% believe there should be, and that there should be an age requirement. And then there could be exceptions to that rule based on conversations with parents. We have gone to such an extreme of trying to supposedly protect children from parents without any thought into this. We do not let children, I've given this example before where, my son came out at 6 years old with, handcuffs and a cell phone, whatever, pretending to be a police officer. I didn't then decide, hey, buddy, you know what? Go out on the street and here's a real gun. Go out on the street and start arresting whoever you see fit. That would be irresponsible. And the same thing applies to us allowing children, 5 years old, elementary school, choosing their gender. Our frontal lobes are not developed until we are in our mid-20s. We have all these laws in place because of the fact that we are not at a mature enough level to make certain decisions. They don't even let women get hysterectomies if they're still in their childbearing years without some significant, huge discussions, because they are potentially taking that away from you. So why are we at a point when we have, and this is the thing with these laws that need to be reevaluated. In our state, at the age of 14, children can start making their own medical decisions without a parent's consent. I understand where the intent of that law may have been, because you had children that were in dynamics where they couldn't get their basic medical needs taken care of, due to the dynamic of the family situations that they were in. And yes, that should be allowed. But when you are talking about altering your body in such a way permanently with hormone therapy or puberty blockers, those are things that we should be having a discussion. We should have an age limit. And the idea that the thought process of allowing children to do this isn't in itself considered some kind of abuse to children when they are not in a position to make that decision
To
for
comprehend.
themselves. There is so much life that we need to live, so many experiences we go through, so many trials that we have. There's experimenting. There's all things you do to just become who you are and figure out who you are. If I would have gone forward and made permanent decisions when I was, you know, under the age of 20, uh I was a huge tomboy. I know there's been like these things about, save the tomboys or what have you, because imagine if I was in school and I was very athletic. I was more masculine in my, qualities than feminine. And I am a happily married woman. But when I was a lot younger, when I just wanted to beat the boys, because I was pretty good at beating the boys and a lot of things, and then all of a sudden middle school kicked in and their hormones kicked in, and then, and that went south. But like, imagine if it's just like, oh, well, I'm going to start taking testosterone, or, I'm going to do this at that age. And then here I am now with all the years that I've lived and been like, oh my gosh, the things that I was thinking in that age. Like, that is why we have boundaries. That is why we are supposed to guide our children. And the idea that we have people that think that this is absolutely okay and that, children should just have the right to decide what they want to do, that is ridiculous. And it is ridiculous. So when are we going to start actually being mature adults, putting some criteria in? And it's not to say that, no, that you can never go down that road. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that that's the exception. And if you are going to go down that road, the idea of forcing everybody else to accept it, no,
And pay for it.
we should be compassionate. We should be kind to one another. We shouldn't be bullying people. We shouldn't be making fun of them for choices that they have made when they've actually taken the time to thoroughly ensure that's the choice they want for them forever. We have too much of this instant gratification and being able to change our mind at any given moment. And there are some choices you make in life that are permanent. And that even if you can undo them, the impact of what happened is going to be so significant, that you may never be back to what you were before. And if we are not protecting our children, we are wrong. And, the idea of how many things we have gone through in history, like we're supposed to be learning from history, all this talk about, hiding history or what have you. There's things we need to be revisiting. Like there are decisions that have been made and we're like, oh, that wasn't a good idea. How well, everybody was smoking cigarettes and that was the greatest thing since sliced bread. And now all the cancers and everything that's come from it. You don't think that there's going to be a backlash from putting children, I believe is it the puberty blocker or the hormone therapy? One of them is chemical castration. It's what they were giving to prisoners. Excuse me. That, were charged with pedophilia or what have you, to chemically castrate them. These are the medicines or the drugs that we're putting into our children. And we think that this is okay. It's not okay. And so it is time for people to actually get together have conversations, make some decisions, and we're going to have to change legislation because there's so many rules and laws on the books that I truly believe they had good intentions when they were initiated, but so many years have gone by and so many changes have happened that I'm sorry to allow children to make certain decisions at 14 years old without parental consent is not appropriate. Now, should there be a caveat in there in regards to there are some parents that maybe aren't in the capacity to be making appropriate decisions, but that is still a fine line because a parent has a right to parent their own child. And the dynamic of any school thinking that they have more say over a child during the time that they are in that school versus the parent, unless that parent's rights have been terminated or the child is a ward of the state, the parents should have a right to what is going on with their children. Because whose fault is it going to be years down the road when a child like your Chloe Cole, who I've mentioned her before, at 13 came out to her parents, and this one was one where parents were in agreement and they took her to a doctor and they started hormone therapy, and then she had a double mastectomy, and then by the time she's 16 years old, she decided that she wanted to be a girl. She didn't want to be a boy, but now she's already had these surgeries, and will she ever be able to bear children again? That's yet to be determined. Who's at fault for harming her? Who's at fault for allowing a child to make a decision that has long-term consequences that have not thoroughly been thought out? This is just, it's absurd. It's ridiculous.
I'm gonna tell you, society is gonna hold the parents accountable if it ever went anywhere. And the crazy thing about it is the school system is encouraging it. I mean, not
Right.
necessarily encouraging it. They're
No, they
allowing.
are. There are some districts that truly are encouraging this. You are encouraging students to not well, you're encouraging educators to keep this secret. You're encouraging students that teachers are this safe place for you to have an alter ego, basically. You are encouraging deception and lying. At what point did our education system become a platform to encourage our children to lie and deceive people? It is one thing if you are going to have an interaction with your parent and you are going to be harmed. There are laws, there are hotlines, there are things in place if you are going to be harmed to help you. But just to be uncomfortable with having a conversation with your parent and then the school to be the saving place where you can just be who you want to be without any consequence of that, you are encouraging something that may not be meant for a child.
You know what's so crazy? Okay. At least 269 K through 12 educators arrested on child sex crimes in the first 9 months of this year. And this is reported on Fox News. A Virginia counselor charged twice for sex crimes allowed to work for nearly 2 years. The agenda that the school system has in some schools, not all, and it's probably, I would hope that it's very few and far between, but there are teachers whose agenda is to attack children. And man, it's crazy to me that we allow things like this to continue. We're not venting people. You know, our kids are our future. And if we keep corrupting them and misguiding them, we're going to have a very messed up society in the future. In the beginning, chaos was created because they knew that as long as you kept chaos to the masses, The 2% can still flourish because you're causing controversy and they're setting up everything that needs to be in order so that they can make maximum profits, putting East versus West, North versus South, white versus black, good versus evil, you name it. And the opposite is always pushed for you to try to cause controversy and battle because that's what sells. Just like in our world right now, we are fear mongering the fact that nuclear Armageddon is coming. You know, we've always feared that. And at any time that could be what happens. But the fact that we still allow these type of individuals to run our countries or the countries, man, this is crazy. Um, the fact that another country can invade another country for no reason, just because they say, we want you to be part of us, because back in a long time ago, you were part of us, so we just want you back. And if you don't want to come back peacefully, we're going to take it back physically. And what in the world is that in this world where we don't have respect and compassion for other people's decisions? Anybody who's living in a dictator state, I just can't fathom how you allow that. We are in the 21st century where speak up matters, where it does make a difference. You know,
You are right.
When you talk shit enough, loud enough, they always say the squeaky wheel gets all the attention, because if nobody wants to hear something squeaking, they oil that shit to shut them up. Well, this is one of the things that if you are a parent, I say it in my open, stand up for our children's or get the hell out the way so we can, because it's very important to take a stand. Parents' rights are being stepped on every single day. And I'm going to tell you, as a single father who definitely had to go through the ringers dealing with fighting for custody over my kids when the other parent clearly didn't care. But as a man, they automatically default to the woman. And I'm here to say not all people are good parents. And I say that loosely, and I didn't want to stereotype any particular gene or sex, because I know that both sexes can be good and bad. But there are some that you should intake the content before you make a decision. When I went to mediation, the mediator was all on her side, even though I presented evidence that her and her new significant other were a grave threat to my children. And when I say grave threat, I mean registered sex offender, and the court system still felt that the mother was still the better parent than a father who has no history of any of that kind of stuff. So the system is broken.
Mm-hmm.
The system.
I'll tell you in regards to that, that brings up another point, is something else that I was going to touch base on today. And that is for Oregon, I am recently in the process of going through the training to be a volunteer CASA. And that's a court-appointed special advocate for the child. And I decided to go forward with that training because of the dynamic, which I've talked about in one of the previous episodes, of what is going on with my grandson, where my daughter is not in a position to be able to take care of my grandson. He's been put into community resource. And the thing about it is I'll agree with you. And I don't know what the dynamic was in California and for your case, or, anything like that. But I know in Oregon, the purpose of the Department of Human Services is to reunify that child with parent, which is mother first, and then maybe father.
And it shouldn't be like that.
the thing about it is they, and I've been told this, and it was very concerning to me, is that it's not about the best interest of the child when it's in regards to the state's defense. It's to get them back with the parent and ensure that they've done everything possible to make sure that they have done their due diligence to ensure that the children can go safely back with the parent. The problem with that is you run into the situation where, since that is their focus, the idea that these children shouldn't be going through this, or there should be somebody else in play, that's where the CASA worker comes in, because the CASA is supposed to be focusing on the best interest of the child. And so, regardless of what is going on with DHS and their marching orders, because that's exactly what it is their marching orders by the state. And it's basically a cover your ass to make sure, because when it comes to terminating parents' rights, it would go to an appeal court, and there's been so many of those turned over where parents are able to get their kids back. That's the problem. And so it's I get it. Like, it shouldn't be easy to lose your rights as a parent. It really shouldn't. Though with everything that I'm seeing in regards to the stuff we're seeing going on in schools, they sure as hell are trying to make it a lot easier for parents to not have any rights for their own kids.
Mhm.
But the idea that it really shouldn't be easy, but we have to have somebody fighting on behalf of the child that isn't even taking into consideration what the state's purpose is, which first and foremost is reunify the parents, you know, stance, which they want their kids back, which in some cases, yes, absolutely. But I'm sorry, there's some dynamics where you shouldn't be getting your kids back. When you are putting kids in harm's way, and it's usually regarding substance abuse is involved heavily with this kind of stuff, or just domestic violence and stuff like that. And usually the thing about it is that it's so much deeper. There was something going on with the parents. You know, the hurting people hurt people. Parents that never had good role models or examples in their lives may only be doing the best in their mind with no appropriate guidance. You know, and this goes back to if we reflect back on children making their own decisions regarding what gender they want to be at the age of 5, like, it really takes people having good boundaries, good influences, good role models, good decision making, critical skill thinking, before we're allowed to make these decisions. And if you didn't have that as an example, you may be doing a lot better than what your parents did for you, but that may not really be what's in the best interest of the child. And you may not know any different. It really comes down to educating. We need to educate people, you know. And I had my daughter at 17. Should not have had my daughter at 17. But I'm going through, like, we had mock case studies as I'm doing the training for this CASA. And to read those interviews with the children and how the children feel and what's going on with them, it is really heart-wrenching. And I'm like, you know what? This is something that they should have had in high school. You know, kids that are wanting, kids having kids and kids having sex. It's just like, you need to really, we don't talk about it. We don't talk about, hey, you know what? You could get pregnant. Yeah, that might be out there, but nobody really thinks about it. It's like, okay, so if you get pregnant and you need to be responsible, can you provide for this child? What happens if you can't? Are you being abused in your relationship? Are you using substances? Like, what happens to the child? We don't think that far ahead when we're as young as we are. But you know what? We also have not given our children enough credit for how much they can absorb and how mature they are. And every child is different. You know, my son, 10 years old, I just had to have a conversation with him because of all the stuff that I'm seeing through training and whatnot about, hey, buddy, inappropriate touch. Like, there's adults that may try to touch you or do something inappropriate. That should not be happening. I mean, you'll have adults that may try to threaten you and say, hey, I'm going to hurt your parents. I'm going to do this to try to get you to not say anything. Like, those are conversations. Like, I never had a conversation like that with my daughter. Those are conversations we don't think that we want to have. But guess what? Kids are under the age of 10 when these things are happening to them. So if we're not having a conversation with them and letting them know, hey, this is inappropriate, this shouldn't be happening, how will they know? They don't, the way that they think. I mean, my poor son, he got his first bad grade because they're not doing the numbers anymore. That he got a D+, and he was mortified how that came out, and the converse just had talked about it. And I'm like, buddy, why were you? He didn't want to disappoint me. Our children don't want to disappoint us. And so if they don't have that confidence and that security that they can come to us, that they can talk to us, that no matter what they say, even if it's ugly, we are there to listen. I don't know how many times I've had the conversation with them. It's like, buddy, listen, here's the deal. I want you to come to me for anything. And I can't guarantee you what my reaction may be, but here's the deal. You tell me, Mom, I think I'm going to say something that might make you mad, and it will help redirect my, you know what I mean? Make me double think that, okay, he's got the courage and bravery to tell me something that he's afraid to tell me. I want to make sure that my instant reaction isn't something more than what he could handle, so that he can continue to feel safe and come to me for things that he may not be comfortable for. I'm sorry, the child that is getting a beating because they spilt milk on the floor, they're not likely to come to you when they're having sex and may end up pregnant or have gotten somebody pregnant. If, the consequences for the little things that they do are so severe, they are not going to want to come to you for the greater things. So we have to be careful.
Yeah, that's definitely true. We have a viewer, Jason the Impaler. He says, I've always told my children that they can always come to me and tell me anything, not judging, but being there to support uh, with all the right or wrong, but try to better themselves though through their failures. That is the way. I mean, you want to encourage your kids, pick them up when they fall, but you have to let them fall. My daughter, I have a son who has cerebral palsy, a grandson who has cerebral palsy. And they said he wouldn't walk, he wouldn't talk, he wouldn't do all these things. And let me tell you, my daughter took a tough love stance with him because she wanted to prepare him for when she passes away. And if every time he fell down and was crying on the floor, if she picked him up, he would never know how to pick himself up. So he would cry on the floor, and it would be at the store. He might slip and he might stumble because he had trouble walking. He might fall down and he would cry. He wouldn't be hurt. He fell down. And the fact that he fell down and was crying, there were people that were in the store and they were going, hey, why are you going to let him sit there and cry? Pick him up. And they would go to pick him up, and she would say, excuse me, that ain't your child. Please don't touch him. But he's crying. It doesn't matter. I'm teaching him that when he falls down, sometimes there won't be someone there to pick him up. So you have to have the strength and courage to deal with it on your own. And now my grandson, who they said would never walk, run, talk, and all this other stuff, does everything they said he wouldn't. They said he wouldn't make it to 10. He's over 10. So don't let somebody tell you you can or can't do something, because the human brain is very, very resilient. Just like you said about the one girl who wanted a sex change at an early age, and then at 16 she decided she wanted to be normal again. Not to say that wanting to be that's a whole nother story.
Right.
But for me, just like you have to be a certain age to be responsible to vote, responsible to drink, responsible to die for our country. During those first 18 years of life, instead of encouraging kids to, oh, you feel a little different? Oh, you think you're someone a different sex than you were born? Let me start giving you all the information to help you make this conversion when they're not even sure. They were just saying, I have these feelings and thoughts. And I think that when you're young, those are just thoughts that you have because your brain is developing.
Mhm.
And you think about all the crazy thing that's going on based on the things that you see in this world. We didn't have all this transgender and all this other issues when we were really, really young because it wasn't brought to the forefront as much because now we have social media, TV, all those things. So now it's easier for people to see, and we're making it appear to be the norm when it's a very small group of people that actually want to be that way. And a lot of them, when they're older, change their mind. But at a young age, once you kiss somebody of the same sex, once you kiss anybody, you can't take that back. I don't care what sex you are.
Mhm.
If you regret, if you are a man, you kiss a woman, and down the line you look and go, "Oh my God, that woman was so ugly. What was I thinking?" You can't take it back. Now, how you deal with that is how you deal with it. But think about it mentally. If you are a man or a woman and you kiss the same sex, and then down the line you think to yourself, "Oh, I don't want to do that. What was I thinking?" You really can't take that back, and it's going to haunt you forever. So if people are saying, "Hey, man, we're just going to go ahead and encourage you to pursue your feelings," that's not a good thing. Sometimes your feelings get you in trouble, just like when you want to, "Oh, I feel like going out to dinner. I feel like going out to the club." You felt like going to the club, you go to the club and you get into some shit. Now you go to jail because you felt like going there, and it. So sometimes your actions immediately will dictate what happens way down the line, and sometimes you can't take those back. Like you said, sex change is permanent. There's no
Right.
coming back.
Well, and the other thing about that is I'm big on we need to understand our why. Like that is one of the huge things in regard to when I'm making decisions. It may not be your why, and that's fine, but it's my why. And so why we are not initially going in and understanding and really having true conversations with kids that are wanting to change their identity. Why is that? You really need to go a little bit deeper and figure out what the root is, because is the root that, well, is, and we've talked about this before, well, I like pink or I like glitter and I'm a boy, or I want to do this and that and I'm a girl. Well, that's a society norm that may make you feel that way. It doesn't mean that that is what should justify you changing your gender. And so, and then when it comes to being attracted, because the reality of it is this all comes down to sex, and why we are sexualizing our children in elementary school when they shouldn't even be condoning sex at that point. I have no idea, because the bottom line is at the end of the day, everything is platonic. And you can have a really close girlfriend, you can have a really close boyfriend, and it be nothing more than a friend until you bring it to another level, which involves intimacy. And
Mhm,
so
mhm.
why we are trying to, well, you might be bisexual in elementary school. Why? They shouldn't be having sex in elementary school. Like maybe you have really close girlfriends, you have really close boyfriends, you may be closer. I was way closer to the boys than I was with the girls when I was younger. That was just part of who I was. And so, does that mean that I should become a man just because I may relate to them more? I might have, more in common with them. No. And so, what's the root? Is trauma involved at all? And so, yeah, men that like real men wear pink, right?
No, I don't
So
know. I like pink. Maybe not in the same the format he's talking about, but I like pink.
well,
I'm
and
just
even
gonna
like
say that.
I remember, and it's so ingrained in us. I remember going to the store one time. We were on the coast, and my son was looking at shoes, and there were these just kind of shiny, reflective. They were more like pinky purplish. And I remember my son looking at them, and he's like, "Mom, those are cool." And I'm like, "Oh, those are girls' shoes." And we were in the girls' section, but I immediately went to, well, you know what I mean? He likes those shiny shoes. At what point are we saying because you like shiny shoes that, oh no, all the shiny shoes in the world are for girls only? If you like shiny shoes, then you must want to be a girl. Come on. Can
You
we
know,
just
that's funny because when I go shopping, if I'm gonna go out and do a event, um, I look at all those sparkly type outfits because I want to be seen. If you see me out and about, you're gonna see me with shit talking Sundays plastered all over my clothing. You might see some light up shoes or sparkly. I'm gonna do that because I want people to see me, but it doesn't mean I'm trying to attract a man. Hell no. I love my woman. I uh I tell people all the time there's nothing wrong with admiring art no matter what it is. It's only a problem when you look at the art and you get to the point where you lust for it. No matter if you're a man and you think another man is handsome, there's nothing wrong with that. It's only something wrong if you're looking at them and go, "Damn, he's handsome. I wouldn't mind messing with him." Nah, it's okay for men to say, "Hey, I got a handsome friend. I could hook you up with him." But the moment a man says, "Oh, my friend he's a cute dude," or he's handsome, or he's fine, they're automatically thinking, "Nigga, what's that homo shit you doing?" Excuse the N word. What's that? Uh, that man, that ain't right. And it shouldn't be like that. If you know your friend, me. I tell it how it is. Um, but I do say no homo. Hey, bro, no homo. But that fit looked tight on you today. Or hey, bro, you looking cool today. No homo. And it's messed up that you got to say that because people,
well, and you'll offend somebody by saying that.
you know, uh, because I have said to one of my friends, "Hey, bro, you look good in that, bro." He goes, "Hey, man, cool with all that gay stuff." And I'm like, "I'm not being gay. I'm just saying, man, that looks good on you, bro." And are you I'm not saying that I'm attracted to you because it's not bad. I'm just like, bro, when you go out, you're gonna get them tonight. You're gonna knock them dead. Women do it. Why can't we tell our male friends, "Hey, bro, you're gonna kill them tonight. You looking sharp, bruh. You looking sharp. Go out there and hey, knock them dead." You know, uh, in school, when kids are growing up, like you said, in elementary school, these kids don't know how to explain to people that, hey, um, this is Tommy, and I like Tommy. I really do. And automatically, because the teachers or maybe the people that thought about it and made the rules were already sexually minded people, and they said, "Oh, you like Tommy? You must like boys." And not dig deeper and
Right.
explain to them that, "Hey, you like Tommy? Yeah, that's a good friend." And encouraging them to be like, "Oh, you like Tommy? Yeah, he's a great friend. You should, there's nothing wrong with you liking Tommy." Now, what do you mean you like Tommy? Like you want to kiss him? You know, because I had somebody come up to me before and say, "Yeah, I like boys." And I said, "You do? So do you want to kiss him?" And they said, "No, I don't want to kiss him." Well, what do you mean you like boys? They're really cool to play with. And this is a little element,
Mhm.
under sixth grade or under. Yeah, Kiss them. I like boys because they're cool to play with. And it was misinterpreted. And now we're feeding this kid all this information of, okay, so if you like this boy, you should do this, and it's okay to do that. And they're confused, like, oh, well, okay, I didn't know that's how it's supposed to be. But because an adult is telling me this is what I'm supposed to be doing, okay, I will. And that's where the problem is. I think at elementary school, kids don't know what they mean or what they're
We're
talking about.
confusing our children.
Yes. So even sex education, that shouldn't be discussed into the detail that they're discussing in school before 6th grade. I would even go so far as to say 7th and 8th is even, marginal. But the birds and the bees, that conversation, that should be left to the parents. And the fact that now we don't have separation from church and state, because we have the state and the church telling our children how we're supposed to be sexually. That is crazy and absurd. And if you as a parent want to have your child not participate in that subject, then they get a bad grade for it because they didn't take the class. That's just insane. And because I went to, the teachers, open house, and I was like, hey, yeah, I see what your study plan is. But I have a question about this sex education thing. This is a whole section, a whole segment. How in detail are we going to get in this? Oh, we're going to talk about homosexuality. We're going to talk about transgender. We're going to talk about why. I mean, I think that subject could be something you could talk about in 1 or 2 days in class and move on from it. If we had cameras in the school, it would hold everybody accountable, because then people can say whatever. And if there's a problem, hey, run the video back. And then we look at it and we say, no, you're doing something wrong. But right. I think teachers, not all teachers, but I think some teachers don't want cameras in the classroom because they don't want to be held accountable. And some children probably don't want cameras in the classroom because they know they will be held accountable for what they do. And that is the one way that we can slow some of this stuff down. That's how I see change happening. But right now, the way that they're doing it, I am not okay with them trying to tell my kids that transgender is okay and you have to accept it and you have to do this and do that. Nah, you should respect somebody else's wishes, but you ain't got to do all this. You ain't got to go out your way for someone else. You just should not be disrespectful. And that's the bottom line for me.
Well, on that note,
anything else you want to say?
No, I think we're good. This has been good. I think we need to continue to have these conversations, and we need to get them on the table and start having more discussions like this. Because I don't think people, it's like they hear subjects like this and then they think that, oh, well, you're against this, you're against that. And it's like, no, don't make assumptions like this and, start calling people transphobic and all that other kind of stuff. This is about having some boundaries, having some criteria that is age appropriate, and ensuring that everybody has had a chance to have their voice heard. And I'm definitely on board with having a conversation with this with, educators, with parents, and with students a little bit older that fall in, that realm, so that their voices can be heard. Because if you are creating victim mentality and the idea that people are being discriminated against, if you're telling them, well, if someone doesn't agree with you, then that's discrimination. No, that's life. And so we have to make sure that you need to understand that you may make decisions in life that other people don't agree with, and that's okay. You can choose, but make sure you're okay with it at the end of the day. Like if you're only doing it because of somebody else and you're not doing it because it's who you are, you're doing it because of someone else or what you think or to get back at someone else, or if you don't have a solid reason for your why, then you need to reevaluate what you are doing. If you are completely comfortable with it, then you should be able to stand on the rooftops and it shouldn't matter what anybody else says, and you should be okay with it. But if you are to the point where, well, this makes me feel uncomfortable because of this and that, and it's simply that that person may not agree with your choices, you can choose not to hang around with that person. You can choose not to have that person in your life, but you shouldn't be forcing them to choose to accept choices that you are making. And that is the difference.
Right. Well, Sensible Chery, like every week when we have these conversations, we touch on some very interesting points. Anybody out there that has something they want to say, talk about, chime in. You could hit me up at agthedad at shittalkingsundays.com, and I will definitely get back to you. I know, Jason, you don't want us to end right now, but Sensible Chery has a job, and she's got things to take care of. We're actually a lot over, but we will be back here next week, next Monday, every Monday at 9 a.m. That lady over there is Sensible Chery. She is a school board member in the great state of Oregon. Remember, she has officially endorsed Betsy Johnson, and I can't vote for you, Betsy, but what I can do is endorse you from California and let you know, and all the fans know that, hey, if Sensible Chery is rocking with you, I'm rocking with you. And if Sensible Chery isn't going to tell you to vote for her, I will. If we're going to see change, vote for Betsy Johnson. Anybody else is going to be stagnant. And if they're not, I'm going to welcome you to come on my show and speak your piece. Any other candidates? If you want my endorsement to push you out, please hit me up. I will be more than happy to listen to what you got to say. Refer your notes and my notes to Sensible Chery, and we'll see where it goes. But until then, Betsy Johnson for state governor. I'm AG the Dad. This is Shit Talking Sundays, Shit Talking with Sensible Chery, and I am OUT out. Be blessed and be loved. Peace.